The hotel lobby smelled faintly of polished wood and expensive perfume. Businessmen in tailored suits glided across the marble floor. A pair of young women laughed lightly, their heels clicking as they passed the reception desk. Everything in the room glowed with money and status. And into that glowing world stepped two figures who seemed to come from another time entirely. Ezekiel Johnson, 65 years old, walked slowly, his back bent from decades of tilling stubborn soil under the Louisiana sun. His plaid shirt was faded, its elbows patched by his own hand. His jeans, once deep blue, had thinned to pale threads, tucked sloppily into mud-stained boots. His hands, dark, calloused, cracked, shook slightly as he carried a small canvas bag. Beside him, his wife, Martha Johnson, 63, leaned on an old wooden cane. Her silver-gray hair was tucked under a simple scarf. Her dress, washed thin from years of scrubbing, carried the faint smell of farm smoke. She clutched her purse tightly, not out of style, but out of necessity. It held everything they owned that wasn't nailed down back home. To the wealthy guests lounging in the lobby, they looked like relics. Out of place. Too old. Too poor. But to each other, Ezekiel and Martha were everything. "Evenin', sir," Ezekiel said, his voice low but steady as he stepped to the polished reception desk. "We'd like a room. Just for the night." Behind the desk, a young manager in a sleek navy blue suit looked up from his screen. His hair was slicked perfectly, his watch glinted under the lights, and his smile was too sharp to be kind. "Of course," he said smoothly. "We have premium suites available for $450 a night. They include..." Ezekiel shook his head before the man could finish. He pressed his rough hands against the counter and said softly, "No, sir. We don't need no premium suite. Just a plain room. Something cheap." For a split second, the manager's smile cracked. Then came the laugh, a short, cruel sound that carried across the lobby. Heads turned. "A cheap room," the manager repeated, loud enough for others to hear. "Sir, this isn't a roadside inn. This is one of the finest hotels in the city." Martha's face tightened. She shifted her weight on her cane, her knuckles pale as she gripped it. Ezekiel put a hand on hers to steady her, then looked back at the manager. "We'll pay what's fair. Just for a room. We don't need nothing fancy. Just a bed." The manager leaned forward, smirking. "If you can't afford a proper room, you might want to try somewhere else. But if you're insisting, the cheap room, as you call it, is downstairs. Near the service wing. $80 a night. But you'll need to pay in cash." He paused, eyes glittering. "Can you even manage that?" The question hung in the air like an insult. A murmur rippled across the lobby. Martha lowered her head, humiliated. She had spent her whole life stretching pennies, feeding children with scraps, sewing clothes from rags, but she had never begged. Not once. Ezekiel swallowed hard. He reached into his canvas bag and pulled out crumpled bills, smoothed flat by his trembling hands. Every dollar was earned with sweat, scraped together from their farms last season before the drought had killed nearly everything. He set the money down carefully. "There's your cash." The manager looked at it as though it were dirt. He picked it up between two fingers, as though afraid it might stain him. He chuckled, shaking his head. "Well, this will certainly cover your budget room." He turned to his colleagues, three young assistants in bright suits who had been watching with barely contained amusement. "See? They really do come with cash in hand. Like something out of a movie." One of the assistants snickered. Another whispered something behind her hand. Laughter echoed in the pristine lobby. Ezekiel said nothing. He had endured harder words than these in his lifetime. He had survived segregation, watched doors close in his face, felt hunger gnaw at his family while others dined well. Words could not break him. But Martha, his Martha, lifted her head. Her eyes, dark and tired, locked onto the manager. "You think you're better than us, son," she said, her voice trembling but sharp. "You think this suit, this desk, this building makes you higher. But listen to me. One day you'll be 63. Your back will ache. Your knees will cry out. And you'll learn that pride don't keep you warm at night. Kindness does." The lobby grew quiet. The assistants shifted uncomfortably, but the manager's smirk only deepened. "Ma'am," he said coldly, "I suggest you pay for the cheap room and leave it at that." And then Ezekiel spoke. Not loudly, not angrily, but with a weight that seemed to still the air. You look at us and see weak old farmers. But these hands, he raised his cracked fingers, trembling yet strong. These hands built more than you'll ever know. They built homes, fed children, pulled life from the dirt when the dirt wanted to give us nothing. You mock us now. But men like me, women like my Martha, we kept this land alive long before you stood behind this desk. His voice thickened. Don't confuse wealth with worth, son. Don't you ever. For a long moment, no one spoke. The wealthy guests shifted uneasily. The assistants dropped their smirks, shame flickering across their faces. And for the first time that night, the young manager faltered. His smug mask cracked. A man stepped forward from the back of the lobby. His presence was commanding, his gray suit pressed sharp, his eyes keen. He was the regional director of the hotel chain, and he had been watching the entire exchange. Mr. and Mrs. Johnson, he said, walking toward the desk. You will not be staying in any service wing. The manager stiffened, color draining from his face. You'll be staying in one of our finest suites, free of charge, and we will see to your meals as well. Gasps rose around the room. Martha blinked in shock. Ezekiel straightened as much as his weary back would allow. The director turned his cold gaze on the manager. As for you, see me in my office. Now. The assistant scattered, avoiding eye contact. The once smug manager followed, his shoulders stiff, his confidence shattered. That night, Ezekiel and Martha sat together in a room they never imagined they would enter. A suite with thick carpets, soft lights, and a bed so wide it felt like a field. Martha pressed her hand against the crisp white sheets, tears welling in her eyes. Zeke, she whispered, I ain't never slept in a place like this. Ezekiel smiled faintly, taking her hand. Doesn't matter the bed, Martha. Long as I'm next to you. They held each other close, two weary farmers in a world that had tried to mock them, but could not diminish them. And downstairs, whispers spread among the guests. Whispers of the old man's words, the old woman's courage. Every generation needs to hear voices like Ezekiel and Martha's. Voices that remind us that dignity is not found in riches, but in resilience. That respect is not earned by mocking the weak, but by honoring their strength. This is more than just a story of an old farmer and his wife. It's a mirror, held up to a society that too often values money over humanity. Share this story. Let Ezekiel and Martha's courage echo beyond one hotel lobby. Let it stir something in us all. Subscribe to Echoes and Struggles, where stories of dignity, injustice, and resilience find their voice. Please don't leave without sharing, comment, and like. We can't do it without you. Thank you. Because until we learn to listen to the voices beneath the surface, the farmers, the forgotten, the overlooked, our reflection as a society will always be incomplete.